Here with the magical beast of a man, Eric Goodman, we're going to break down a little postural restoration, a term I just made up. Well, it's actually Postural Restoration Institute, but that's not your term. Foundation training!
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm gonna take Aaron here. So Aaron's known foundation training for a long time, and thank you for letting me do this with you. I appreciate it. But I'm gonna just take him through a little bit of the basics. I'm gonna do 2 fundamental breakdowns of the body, one at the shoulders, one at the hips. And here's how foundation training addresses it. We address the symptoms that come through these crummy breakdowns with strength at the legs, surrounding tension at the hips, the right places, length at the spine, and expansion at the rib cage. And we use that skill of each of those kind of climb up the ladder skills. Together, they build a foundation.
Fantastic.
So we'll start at the hips.
All right.
Most people, they sit all the time. You're kind of in this feet out, pelvis under, or if you happen to be a really flexible person, the pelvis kind of swings behind you. Yep. And you get either sway back or flex. Yep. Your doctor tells you you've got like a herniated disc or degenerative spine disease, or they tell you you've got no lordotic curve, whatever it is, flexion intolerance. There's 100 terms for your back's taking too much force because your hips are not working the right way. So what I want to teach people is here's how the hips work the right way. You have to compensatorily pull into internal rotation to allow the glutes, the muscles that turn us out, we got to let them turn off and lengthen in order for the hips to hinge and move accurately.
Okay.
So you'll see Aaron here is it's like he's standing inside of a box. It's not a hard concept. The outside edges of the feet are straight ahead, parallel. Inside edges, therefore, converge ever so slightly in like a 1 to 3 degree internal rotation.
So I'm turning in a little bit?
Just a little bit, perfect. And that turn in doesn't come from the ankles torquing, it's like the hip socket doing the turn.
Okay.
The pockets.
Okay.
I describe it very often as a scroll closing towards center between the 2 legs.
Cool.
So, and before we do anything else, just simple cue, lift the weight of the head off the neck. That's all.
Okay.
Whatever that works for you, lift the weight of the head off the neck. 3 points of contact on the foot. It's like you're standing on a tripod. The ball joint of the big toe, the ball joint of the pinky toe, and the heel. Those are the pressure points. The big toe and pinky toe, it's like they're trying to spread away from each other. Really wide forward base. As the heel, you kind of sit back into the heel. So it's like a triangle on each foot getting bigger, wider, broader. Take that force into a big breath that not only fills the sternum, but when it meets the cage of the sternum, it fills the back of the ribs. Put pressure through the big toe joint, small toe joint, heel, and we're going to do a very simple counterbalance measurement. Because of the internal rotation, the hip hinge happens very simply, so the arms are going to go from this simple decompression position to hips pulling away from the elbows. Hands go forward, hips go back. Bring the fingertips together. Let's close the kinetic chain into a sphere of tension. The whole purpose of this is like you're holding a giant coconut, biggest coconut you can possibly reach. Even the joints here are bending. Everything's expansive. That expansion comes from the extensors of the forearm, so get out of flexion. Let's straighten the wrists a little. There you go. Feel that twist you just did from the shoulders?
Yeah, external rotation in the shoulder.
That's your first external rotation exhibit. So we're using this large, expansive platform. Pay close attention to the position that Aaron's in right here, and pay attention to the subtle corrections that I'm going to give him to load the posterior chain, getting out of the hip flexors and out of the quads. The feet look great, the hands look great, but he's got a lot of forward leverage in the quads here. We're going to use the hip lever, like there's handlebars at the hip joints, and we're going to pull length into the hamstrings, pulling the knees up and back as the hips go backwards. A little further back, a little further, keep going, keep going. 2 more inches, removing the knee bend. A little more. There we go, right there. Now we're in the posterior chain. Now Aaron is basically hanging on the big meat of the hamstring muscles. He's got a healthy glute activation.
Healthy glute, Eric says.
Healthy glute activation.
We're actually 2 fine hams.
Jesse is teaching a challenge right now that's all about glute activation.
Love that.
This is one of the things we're doing.
Big fan.
But this is how we get there. Big toe joints are smashing into the ground, and you see that forward lean Aaron just got? He's gonna take that lean out by lengthening the knees. Back, back, back. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Now hold right there. Take the weight of your torso from right here and lift it off my hands. Boom, now you're in it. That's the integration of the posterior chain, the lift of the torso. Let's get a little bit more specific. The chin is gonna pull back, lengthening the back of the neck, lifting the weight of the head off the neck. Woo! And we're gonna breathe as big as possible into the serratus posterior, the back of the ribs, the back of the shoulder joints. Lift the rib cage off the kidneys with an inhale. Keep it off the kidneys during the exhale. Now, real quick, but steady and strong, big toe joint, heel, pinky toe. Smash that weight into the ground as you lift the torso to standing. There you go. So think of it as like a hip angle motion corrector that doesn't allow the spine to take over. So instead of, you're not diving into that motion, you're counterbalancing using the strong muscles to control the weight of the torso. Cool. And you're doing that, you're taking each of those active alignments, each of those strengths, and you're using them to like untwist the common compensatory collapses.
Yeah, it feels like a medieval torture device, except you're torturing yourself.
Yeah, that's actually...
You're like elongating yourself from all of your appendages.
I actually tell people, you gotta learn to pull yourself apart.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how you pull yourself together. You don't, when you're working on strengthening your body, everything can't just come in and converge. Yeah. First, you have to expand. You have to like allow muscles, especially the glute muscles, especially the hamstring muscles, they have to come to their length before they're asked to shorten and provide force. So what we do in foundation training is we teach the right activation, the most effective lengths of each muscle so that they cooperate in the chains that they're linked to fascially. And what you just felt was the posterior chain taking over the entire weight of the body and supporting it.
Can you show us just really quick decompression breathing?
Absolutely.
This is like a quick thing people can do if they're sitting on like a chair, for example.
Let's grab a prop. Yeah,
Grabbing a prop.
Yeah, perfect. So if you're sitting, this is great. So seated decompression. He moves with a lot of force.
Trying to prove a point. I want to be seen.
So you sit typically, and this is everybody, you're not supposed to be, nobody should be like this all the time. That's kind of an inaccurate expectation. But you can have like a 30 to 60 second corrective with decompression breathing. So you're sitting, you're typing, you're kind of flexed at the spine, everything's tight. You have that external rotation of the hip joints kind of dominant in your body. It's so easy. Bring the toes towards each other. Notice I didn't bring my feet, I'm not flexing my legs dominantly, I'm actually intentionally keeping my hamstrings relatively long. Big toe joint, small toe joint, heel. Exactly the same as when we were standing. You're sitting here and you're saying, big toe joint, push down. Small toe, move away from it, spread the toes. Heel, kind of cinch that into place. Touch the toes, touch the knees if you can. If you can't, get a towel, wrap it between the knees so you have something to squeeze in against. And then comes decompression breathing. So you have the platform that you're going to decompress off of. Thumbs at the rib cage, pinkies at the pelvis. This is your space allocation for digestion. This is your space allocation for breathing and heart rate. Every time you inhale through the nose...
Space allocation for a good time.
Space allocation for a good time. I like your additions here. So you're here, and you're using the strength of your inhalation, the intercostal muscles, the serratus muscles, the diaphragm, the lats, the sternocleidomastoid, the big stuff, and you're using it to kind of reconnect to alignment, to reconnect to this expansive axial decompression. And then the magic in decompression breathing is the exhale. You're breathing up, and then you're exhaling with as much force of lift. Breathing up, exhaling. And the decompression happens as a direct result, not of the lifting of the abdomen or the lengthening of the abdomen, but right here, the widening of the rib cage where it connects to the thoracic spine. Spin around for just a second. So you're here. This is where we're trying to make real change in the spine. You've got all these ribs that connect, bing, 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 bing. When they move like this, laterally, away from each other, your body naturally decompresses the length of the spine. When the chest lifts, watch this, just lift your chest. It shrinks and straightens the spine. You don't want your chest to just drop. That's crap, that's not good posture. You want to breathe into the chest wall, and then as soon as you hit the wall, you funnel that breath to this square. The serratus posterior inferior, the serratus posterior superior. Those are the muscles that stimulate an accurate diaphragm contraction. You don't breathe into your diaphragm to make your diaphragm work. You breathe away from your diaphragm to make your diaphragm work. That's the magic. So decompression breathing is a simple tool to just train that. To eccentrically and then concentrically train the muscles that stimulate the diaphragm so that breath volume is improved, and the allocation of vagus nerve innervation, digestion, so all sorts of stuff. That allocation has the space it needs as well.
Would the decompression breathing relate to things like deadlifting, squats? Like we have a barbell here.
Great
Could we
question.
decompress our ways? No!
So it's a great question. Decompression breathing is a resurrection of space for spinal nerves. It's teaching the rib cage to stay expansive. It's for body weight. When you're doing kettlebells, when you're doing any heavy lifting, any axial load, any pressing load, decompression breathing is going to actually lend you too much extension capacity.
Oh yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So what you do is abdominal bracing, and it's like, I mean, any really good coach in strength training is going to teach you how to breathe accurately into the circumference of this space.
So I was teaching Anna today.
But you can't get there the right way from here. So if you're here and you're trying to be super strong, you're too tight, you're too small, too tight here. So decompression breathing primes you for a better abdominal brace for the lift. So we use it kind of, do a founder right before, do a gorilla lift, one of these movements right before a heavy lift, and that primes you. But the breathing for the lift is abdominal. Use a breath belt, use one of those things for that breathing.
Cool.
Yeah, because it helps you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, dude.
Thank you all for tuning in. If you have questions for myself or the good Dr. Goodman, leave some comments below.
I want some of your charisma. Just a little bit, man.
I appreciate it.